Hiya, my name's Keira Forsythe, this is my arm, Stumpy, and today we're talking about the 3 to 4 months post-amputation. So basically, I've just had my arm off, now what? So everyone preps you massively for the operation, you get prepped psychologically before it, and then after it's like, out you go into the big wide world, best of luck to you. So I thought this video might be helpful, maybe interesting, who knows. This is obviously my experience of it, and it can vary for everyone, I assume. So my hospital experience mainly consisted of eating Greg's vegan sausage rolls in copious amounts. I milked that bakery for everything it was worth. So I lost weight, gained weight elsewhere, which ruined my whole premise for launching a weight loss DVD post-operation. So, public perception of amputees, it's a mixed bag. I experienced quite early on the negativity surrounding it. So there was a roommate in my hospital room, and she was very elderly, bless her, but she also spoke very loud, and she made a lot of comments that young girl's life is over before it started. I hope she's got a boyfriend now because she won't get one. So that was interesting. And then the first supermarket I went to the first day after my release from the hospital, two probably like 18-year-old girls saw me, and I'd gone to buy a bougie vegan Easter egg because I'm allergic to milk, and I was living my best life. I thought, what a great day. And they basically saw me, and as they turned the aisle, they somehow thought I couldn't hear them, and they said I would kill myself if I was her. I could never, which was interesting. I was living like my best life. I was now pain-free. I had what I wanted out of the whole operation, and I'd come to buy a really fancy Easter egg to treat myself, and they saw it as this awful thing, which was really weird. I'd grown up very much in the mindset that disability is this amazing thing. People do amazing things. We watched the Paralympics when we were kids. Mum used to take us to watch wheelchair basketball. So for me, it was really bizarre that people were now making all of these comments all of a sudden. So that was the first sort of thing that I noticed. Weight loss was another thing. So I lost quite an obvious weight here. This part of your arm weighs quite a bit. I did gain it all in my stomach with the Greg situation, but when people lose weight, you obviously feel a bit lighter when you're running, things like that. No one really understands what losing weight purely from one area feels like. So rather than like a general weight loss over your body where you don't feel this huge difference, I was dipping to one side. So if I was walking, I would dip. Running was dangerous. The first few times I did it, I fell on that side. And the first time I went on a treadmill, the strength and conditioning coach who was with me was like, you need to let go of the little railings at the side. I was like, yeah, if I do that, I'm falling. And that took me quite a few months to get over. It's something that I really stupidly hadn't considered at all. But I got people to walk on the left-hand side of me, so that basically if I fell, people could sort of like catch me. So that was a weird one. Obviously, if you've had a leg amputated, you're going to dip to one side if you try and stand up. But an arm had the same effect. So something I noticed very early on was I needed to shift my mindset. I was very much of an independent disposition, and I used to do things that I didn't need to do, but just because I did it to show that I was independent. So when my arm was at its worst, so say at night I've tried to sleep for a little bit, I've knocked it, in that time I would cut my nails and basically be passing out whilst doing my nails because it was so sore. I would get dressed for school during that time, because if I knocked my arm getting dressed, by the time school had started I would be fine. And I used to tie my hair during that time, so if the pain was that bad anyway, just get everything done, and then hopefully by the time I need to go to work or school, it's good. Post amputation, I didn't have that sort of, it's not a luxury time, because when I tell you the pain was horrific, it's an understatement, but I now couldn't tie my hair up by myself. My stump was really tender post surgery, so the way I tie my hair up now I couldn't do then. So I all of a sudden was having to ask people to tie my hair up for me, which I hadn't been doing. And it was almost like I've gained all this independence with my amputation, but there's also things I've done, even though I was stupid for doing them really, but now I can't. So all of a sudden my mum and my sister and even my dad had a go at doing my hair, and his was a bit like tying it in a massive knot with a bobble somewhere in there. No offence, Dad, but everyone sort of had to do this, and it was like, oh, I can't do that anymore. And it was things like, I used to basically shower with my left arm completely out of the shower, so the curtain would be here and I would wash my whole body one-handed, and then once I'd knocked my arm at night, I would use that time to wash my right hand and left hand properly. I would cut my nails. Now all of a sudden, how do I cut the nails on this hand? Because I used to just hold the nail clippers in my left hand and be in excruciating pain while I did it, but now I couldn't. So it was really weird to get your head around the fact that I can now do so many things I never did before, but some of the simplest tasks that I used to just do during that nighttime period, I couldn't do anymore. It was the same when I started to sleep. So I previously slept about 2 hours a night, and I spent most of the night watching documentaries, trying to do schoolwork, because I was on so much medication that I would have to go over and over and over my notes a ridiculous number of times. And all of a sudden I didn't have this 12-hour period that I had before to do all of this stuff. So actually becoming more organised in my time awake, especially because I napped so much post-surgery, was a real shift. I now can't watch Forrest Gump as much as I used to, which was a nightmare for me, but I've had to make it work. I've slotted it in. Another mindset shift I had was learning not to flinch. So before surgery, if anyone was to go to touch my arm, it was like the Matrix trying to dodge left, right and centre, because people, you don't realise how much people touch you until you've got a condition where if someone touches you, you're going to cry for the next 4 hours. So people, I get it a lot in work, old people quite like to touch you when they're talking to you, obviously not at the moment with a pandemic. So post-surgery, people were going to touch my arm or like that side of my body, and I still had that natural instinct to move. The first time it rained, my whole family panicked. I went out with my friend a couple of months after surgery and it rained, and we both went into like survival mode. It was like, oh my god, which tree can we go under? And then it was like, oh wait, and we just stood in the rain, and I quite like that now. I quite like standing in the rain. That's not on my dating profile. Likes long walks on the beach and standing in the rain. But for me that was a huge thing where you had to rethink things you couldn't do before, or were like fear triggers, and all of a sudden it was like, breathe, like you don't need to worry about that anymore, queen. So thank you, Stumpy, for that. And now I let people touch my arm all the time, not during pandemic times, but yeah, I quite like people like touching my arm. It gives me the sensation of someone almost like holding your hand. which is cute. So post-surgery, you have to look after your new arm. So I got these creams, so basically to keep the scar as perfect as possible really, you had to massage this really hydrating cream. So I was doing that about 2 times a day. I also had to massage my arm, and typically the pamphlet you get given shows you how to massage your arm with 2 arms. Like, it's not just me that thinks that's strange. So I milked it for all it was worth and got my sister to massage my arm. Whether she enjoyed that or not, I'm not really sure, but it's one of my favourite things. Even now, like, because I've still got all the nerves in there, when people touch different parts, I can feel different parts of my hand and arm. And yeah, I loved that. But there was a lot of aftercare with an amputation. And it was very much like, yeah, I had to keep my arm elevated for quite a long time because it was quite swollen, and I wasn't in work during this time, so I had a lot of free time to just sit there with my arm elevated and watch Forrest Gump probably, or I do like a documentary about something random. But the care required after surgery I hadn't really thought about. I was literally going on nights out with my stitches still in. Was that an idea that was a wise one? Probably not. I was off to the zoo. Like, I was just like, right, I'm living my dream, off I go. And I don't think I stayed in the house for a whole day for probably the first like 2 months, because I was just like going out to see friends, going on walks, like standing in the rain. So I've just had my arm off. What do I now want to do in life was basically the big conundrum. Before, how my arm was, it was so limiting job prospects wise, and all of a sudden now it was like, you can probably do a lot more than you were before. So I went back hobbies wise into like taekwondo. I went back, I got a PT, so all the fitness sort of side of it was there. I was going out with friends and all of that, but looking at the big picture, what was I now doing? So I'm currently 3 years into a 6-year university course, because I do that part-time, in business management, sustainable business, environmental management, because I'm a bit hippie. That's a biodegradable balloon, for example, like save the planet. And all of a sudden it was like, wow, I can really do an awful lot. It was almost like going back to when you take your options in school and everyone does it based on what they want to do, and then you get your results and you apply for college courses or university, whatever. I'd sort of gone back to that phase in my life where it was like, the world is open to you, what do you want to do? And that was quite daunting. It was very exciting, but also it's like, wow, what do I want to do? At the time I was 21 and I was like, what do I now want to do with my life? So for me at the moment, I'm training 5 days a week, hoping to make taekwondo a very big part of my life. And I do my university around that. I work retail at the weekends, which isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life, but it helps fund what I might want to do. And motivational speaking is something that's come out of this. I never thought the day I had this off would mean that people actually liked listening to my stories. I've had quite a chaotic life, I would say. I'm one of those people that seems to attract strange people, unusual situations, and obviously the whole story behind my arm. So that's been amazing. I was recently made a disability ambassador for milk education. So that involves going into schools to discuss disability in sport, perceptions of disability, and sort of breaking down that sort of stigma, which I'm so excited to start being able to do. And it's just opened so many doors for me having my arm off. And people see it as like this life-limiting thing that, oh, you've lost your arm. it couldn't have opened, oh this sounds like a pun, my arm couldn't have opened any more doors for me than it probably has. I'm still not 100% sure what I want to do with my life. Motivational speaking I'm really enjoying, and sometimes I think in life you stumble across things and you're quite passionate about them, and I love talking. I'll see where this channel goes, but I think sharing bits and pieces of my life is quite interesting. So yeah, I think being an amputee really changes what you can and can't do. For some people, obviously, if it's like a freak accident, it might change from being able to do quite a lot to being able to do quite a lot, but of a different sort. For me, before I could do not an awful lot, and it changed to doing quite a lot. So that shift was really quite strange, and obviously we'll see where life takes me. I'm only 23, I keep thinking life's sort of passing me by, and then I speak to people and they're like, yeah, get a grip, you're quite young still. So yeah, for me that's sort of the big takeaway points from the first 3 to 4 months post-surgery. I hope I'm not missing anything. There's so much that went on during that time. I was also on quite a lot of medication for bits of it. But yeah, it was a massive shift in sort of like, wow, I'm spending most days sat in my room watching documentaries and trying to not think about what I've got to do that night getting ready for the next day, to all of a sudden like, wow, I can try on about 15 outfits if I want to. I don't need to think about things in the same structural way I did. Life's completely different for me now. So my 3 to 4 months post-surgery were quite bizarre. It changed a lot of things that I didn't think it would change for me. I didn't think I would be pain-free, and you almost forget when you're in that much pain what normal life is like, and not having to structurally think about your day, how you're going to spend your night, and all of that sort of thing. And all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, this is normal life. This is normal life for me. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If there's any sort of topics or anything that you'd like to hear about, if you leave anything in the comments below, if you message me on Instagram, I'm more than happy to do things amputation related, non-amputation related. So yeah, have a lovely day.